Alright, exciting stuff. The best World of Warcraft expansion that could ever be. The perfect World of Warcraft expansion.
And we would know best, because, you know, why not?
I mean,
clearly it's subjective, and it's all about what we think could be done. And in that specific expansion, obviously, in the wake of recent events, and, you know, judging by what kind of worked in the past, what we would like to see again. So without further ado, let's
go through it. So basically, we kind of did a little bit of a list with things that we want to touch upon. Obviously, this video could be 2 hours long, but we'll have to like compress it to make it like YouTube friendly. So we'll start it off with the story, and we started off with the story because the story is kind of like the main, I would say, launch pad. You know, it delivers.
It kind of sets the tone for the expansion,
like the cover art and everything. Yeah. So it's important, right?
About that, cover arts, and you said it before, man. We need something better than what I don't even know what we have in Shadowlands.
So the weird thing is, okay, we have to try to not bash too much on the past, but we have to mention this. The Shadowlands cover, the first version is just black with nothing on it, and there's another one. I don't know if it was on retail, but there was one with Bolvar on it.
Oh, right. So, okay, Bolvar is neither here nor there. So listen, the best example that I have for this, and it's Wrath of the Lich King. No surprise to anybody, really, because if you think about it, that was maybe one of the best stories delivered. It's not the most in-depth story. It doesn't have the most amount of characters, doesn't have the most amount of plot twists, but it was simple and to the point. And I'm not saying that we need another Wrath of the Lich King, but just keep it simple. Take a character and we go through its journey like Arthur's. We see his descent into evil, into his dark corners of his mind, and he's on the cover. I mean, you know, he's the big baddie, and all the time you work towards getting him. Like, having that archetype villain is just, it gives you perspective and gives you context for what you do, as opposed to a lot of like, ooh, I wonder who it is. Oh, I wonder if that guy's gonna be the villain, or that chick is gonna be the villain.
I think everybody is kind of tired of all this carrot on the stick bullshit. Like, you know, it started off a little bit in Legion, then it went on in BFA, and definitely Shadowlands. Like, oh, just you wait. Oh, you're not expecting this. Wait for the next one and the next one, and fuck that. Simple, baby, simple, relatable. I guess. Maybe it's nostalgia kicking in, I don't know, but it has to be something that at least give us some air. We're tired of all this nonsense with different characters having multiple arcs unfinished. Listen, I feel they tried to pull off some Game of Thrones-ish things with the stories, and it doesn't really apply to.
If you do the Maldraxxus campaign, it's pretty obvious. And I mean, it's a popular trope. It's not that bad. The thing is,
it didn't work.
The game medium is not a good medium to tell a story that deep. If you want to make a story that deep, then you'll probably have to turn into something like Final Fantasy, where we probably have just like at least double the amounts of in-game rendered cinematics, where we have obviously a lot more voice line quests, maybe a lot more main quests, like the campaign. Maybe we'll have like a bigger arcing campaign with a lot of side quests for the main campaign that still tells the story, because, you know, we could, the thing is, most of the story right now that we have is being told in books. Prior was told in, you know, webcomics on their website. You can check on the worldofwarcraft.com website. We have little short videos back in WoD and in Legion, and those were actually really cool.
The Warbringers.
If you listen, if you listen to the 1,000-Year War in Legion with Khadgar and Illyria, that's really good.
Whatever happened to that concept? But anyways, let's not derail here. Yeah. So basically,
simple story with
relatable characters, and also take note that we're basically adventurers, right? Please stop it with us being
champion.
We're
heal her wounds.
we're not the center of this universe, okay? So make it feel once again that the story is basically you are part of it. You are not you are like the most important thing at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So story, we covered it. Let's move along to classes, and we have to talk about classes because of our main shtick here on the channel. We've been doing class guides since like forever. We kind of know.
It's kind of like the first thing that we get into. Yeah. Well, I mean, we are no strangers to playing alts, and for better or worse, for the last couple of years, I've dabbled into pretty much all of the specs in the game through different versions of their iteration, and I found out that, surprisingly, there were a lot more specs that were fun than not fun. So at least in this sense, they're doing a pretty good job, but they're always like when you go into certain specs, you can feel that they miss the mark on others. Yeah. So I think their original formula, if they can get back to it, is easy to learn, hard to master, yeah. And you can have like what they initially envisioned, but they would probably have to do an overhaul on the talents, not necessarily change the whole system, but have single target AoE rows, not AoE mashed with a single target version.
And defensives, like it's a mess, right?
Yeah, either utility, either defensives, either mobility, stuff like that. Just make it a little bit more clean, because then what you can do is you can design, let's say, the columns to be something that what players figured out that they might have wanted initially, is to have like one build that's simple with more passives and more procs and stuff like that. Another one that's more complicated with more actives, more cooldowns to mash together. And the difference in performance can be minimal, because people who really want to try hard and to want to get a kick out of, getting that little bit of extra damage will definitely pick the harder one to master. And as long as it's rewarding and it's not like something like Enhancement Shaman, which is maybe one of the most difficult specs to master.
Oh man.
I feel like even if I master that, like I'll still be behind an average Boomy.
That's the thing. If they're gonna go this route, and if they approach with this solution to the talents, right? Having that passive row actually be passive, but the key factor here is the differences between the passive rows and the active rows, so to say, right? Shouldn't be too high. So if you decide to play the more casual, passive row, okay, you're gonna do 10k DPS. But if you go for the more active, more, let's say, complicated, more min maxi row, then you should be, I don't know, 1k or max 2k plus DPS, something like that. It shouldn't be a huge difference. And we have seen in the past that there has been a lot of differences, at least in terms of like comparing one talent with each other. That being said, I do believe that it's kind of time to reshuffle this model of talents, this Excel spreadsheet. I cannot stand it. I'm not saying talent points are the solution, but I'm sure there must be something that can be delivered here to refresh it, to make it feel cool again, and maybe implement the solution, right? Passive versus active, and having rewards for it.
One thing they did really well, and I actually really like to see that implemented one way or another into classes, is the Legion legendaries, where it felt like you had a roadmap to go towards while playing through the expansion that was like max level, and you eventually got everything, so there wasn't really a build. They could either make it builds and have like different trees, but it like was cool passives here and there, procs, stuff that made your character play differently, stuff that made your character play better or stuff like that. I think that was really cool. Like the old talent system of pre-Kata, right? Pre-MOP. It was too much. It was getting. I think Kata was when it got specialized into classes.
Yeah, Kata was the one where they basically pruned the.
So like the Path of Exile stuff is just maybe a bit too much. Path of Exile is a different kind of game, especially for an MMO. But we don't have to have like 10, 20 rows of talents when 50 different talent points or whatever. Yeah. I think a matchup between the two might be ideal.
Also, and we're gonna close off the classes topic on this. They should go back to a place where, okay, you have talents, abilities, and whatever for classes, class fantasy, whatever, but boy, do we miss some sort of like class campaigns, spec quests, mounts, class mounts, weapons, transmogs, so all that's a huge opportunity they can go for, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will feel much more connected with their specs and classes. So this is another solution, right? They see this worked in Legion. Why not make it for the perfect expansion?
Right? Dive deep into class fantasy and let us have mentors and shit.
Yeah, that's like one of the coolest things. So you remember class trainers, right?
Yeah.
Have those, but giga amplified, right?
Yeah, like
those like
Khadgar 4K mages. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Like access to the light-spirited version of Tyrion and learn all about the Red Paladin secrets.
That would be cool. That would be so cool.
You have this possibility to go there, because WoW has so many avenues you can explore and make it cool. But we were hopeful here, so this is what a perfect expansion will look like in terms of classes. Now, you mentioned Legion legendaries and stuff, and the Legion artifact system. Time to look at systems for a perfect expansion.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit, but the main idea that I have is when I think of systems, I think of covenants, conduits, artifact power, borrowed power, essentially.
Okay, you finish your point, then I'm going to start mine.
Because obviously we have, like, if we're gonna redesign and reinvent the formula here, obviously we can have a lot more systems. But when it comes to an expansion, if it comes as an addition, I would rather have one system. Just choose one system per expansion, aside from what the core game brings, and have that system be okay. If it has to be a part of player power, let's make it like 10-20% at the very most, because you have to feel like, oh, I'm engaging in the story, I'm getting something out of it, an adventure. Because it's different when you lose 10-20% of your power. It's different when you lose 40-60% of your power, which is a major difference. And okay, we have systems. Just make it. And ideally, I would like it for them to alter the way the gameplay works. Think of tier sets, or think of, if you've played Diablo 3, the rune system, where they alter your abilities and how they function, like how they deal their damage, turn a single target into AoE, turn an AoE into single target, and stuff like that.
Now, I would approach this a little bit different. So we've kind of already got to experience the ups and downs of borrowed power systems, right? Like you have an increased power when an external, I don't know, thing is there, and then you just lose it at the next expansion. So my suggestion here would be your player power should come from the talents, from the gear, tier sets maybe, probably legendaries, I don't know, something like that. But the real one system I would like for them to have is actually purely cosmetic. And hear me out. So here's the deal. Once you start progressing your character, right, and you go through the questing to making Mythic Plus, raiding, PvP, whatever it is that you like to do, that progression, that external power system will actually have you unlock visuals for your characters. And I'm not only talking transmog here. I'm talking about the full 9 yards, right? So at rank 3, for example, you're gonna be able to unlock a different appearance and animation for all of your body movements. Increase in size, increase in appearance as, you know, the body. Then at rank 5, your spell animations and colors and effects start to amplify and change. You know, all the time I'm thinking about this Windwalker monk that at, I don't know, rank 7 at Fist of Fury, his fist becomes super large and there's like a cool ass effect on the left, and the sounds also amplify and change and shit.
You know what?
That would be a super cool progression. It will keep you hooked over and over because it would be unlimited, and it's not power. It's just looks and feel.
And that's actually they can do a lot of stuff like that, like enable like Tauren warriors to become bigger, because you know they're bigger, they're stronger.
Okay, you went there.
And of course, because you know orc warriors, they would start to have like, you know, those blood red shot eyes, like full of blood, and like dripping down their chin. That sounds really fucking cool.
This would be the thing. You can enable this. Think of the possibilities for each spec. Imagine like an enhancement shaman at rank 7 just becoming like in Ascendance, becoming purely electrified and everything like that.
Yeah, like having like little lightning bolts around.
Yeah, on top of him. Or I don't know, holy paladins becoming this huge beacon of light and, you know, pulsating with lights and stuff. You know,
so
getting
cool.
this. I can see rogues like in their shadowlands, big waves of shadows and, you know, purpley things coming out of them.
And
you know,
a lot more like shadowy clone things. Like
it's endless, man. And this
so cool.
This can be implemented in all aspects of the game. You can get ranks from dungeons, you can get ranks from raid, PvP, whatever. Imagine like in PvP even, I can definitely see them like really pushing the bars for like actual movements and body animations to really have that feel, and add to that sound improvement. They can add that too.
They can
start with the base.
They can have all of these as like rewards for challenging content, like solo content, like Mixstar stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about in systems. Yeah. I mean, okay, so this is my idea of a core new system, singular.
That should be like. I mean, you cannot take that away with the expansion, though. You have to keep it.
That's another potential of this, because this is a system that can be added on and iterated for like forever. It's evergreen. It doesn't have to, so it doesn't impact you as, you know, numbers, right? It's just cosmetic.
They can essentially add like another collection tab of spell animations or whatever they want to call it at the time. They can also be like, I think we're gonna touch this in the profession section, but they can be like glyphs from inscription or stuff like that.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that too. Just imagine this, man. Just imagine this. I had this idea because one of the most constant and common things we've talked about in World of Warcraft since we've been doing this shit and since we've been playing, our team has always kicked ass.
Yeah.
Let them take the fucking center stage. and let them make a fucking not a progression, an external power, a core system that really puts them into value. And this is their time to do it. This would be in a perfect expansion, but that's my 2 cents. And speaking of that, we're just going to touch on this more challenging solo content.
People have been asking this ever since Legion, and I think
not Torghast though.
I don't think we're going to develop this a little bit later as well, but I don't think people disliked, challenge modes in WoD and MoP. I mean, it got really cool gear.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they took it out in BFA and why they took it out in. They added horrific visions, but come on, it's not the same thing. And Torghast is twisting corridors is not the same thing either.
No. So something in the lines of Mishtar for sure. And also, really important, stop it with the goddamn currencies. Let's have one currency per patch. That would be.
I'd say one currency per expansion.
Okay, maybe something might happen, between the patches. You may need, but if you have like 3 major patches, there will be 3 currencies. How many currencies we have now in 9.1? I have no fingers on my hands to fucking count them. It's ridiculous.
It's a lot. They would have to redesign this ground up though. But
you guys get
speaking of currencies, let's talk a little bit about gearing because
gearing.
I thought that they really took big strides, and I think they did kind of took big strides in Shadowlands when it comes to the gearing system. And the thing with the gearing is, goddammit, I'm gonna get these right eventually. Okay, so the PvP vendor was a godsend. That was supposed to happen. It's not something new. It's not the first time we have a PvP vendor.
A great idea, man.
They should have never taken it out. Fair enough. So it's not like, great that they did something that was there, but that should never leave the game again. So obviously that should stay in. And I think right now it's pretty clear, and has been clear for years, that the game itself has 3 different major content types, where you have Mythic Plus, Raiding, and PvP, and all of them are challenging in their own right, and all of them can have, let's say, equally or parallel level difficulties of challenge that they present. You have Mythic Raiding, you have people doing plus 20s, 25s, you have gladiators and rank 1 players. All of those contents are difficult, and you could say that they are, let's say, equally difficult at the higher echelon of gameplay. And you can obviously have gear for all 3 of them. Tier sets, mind you, or item sets or anything like that will just give you specific bonuses. You can obviously cross-reference them into other content, but you would lose the bonuses the same way that PvP trinkets now have more versatility in Arena. They could add stuff like that. If you wear 2 dungeon pieces, you do something else. And by enabling tier sets in different content, they can balance those tier sets in that content. They can balance the classes around those tier sets, and they can add ridiculous effects that might not work in other content, because right now when they're developing a piece of gear, they have to think of, okay, how does this perform in raids? How does this perform in dungeons? How does this perform in PvP? How about all of those how does this perform effects are only active in the raid? And they did do this. They do know this with the the shards of domination, because the buffs are, the buffs are silly and boring and stupidly strong, but they are strong, and they're only strong in the raid. Then okay, it makes sense. We're diving down in Torghast, we need to kill the jailer. But it doesn't work in dungeons, and it doesn't work in PvP. And so I think they can just take this and actually make it a stable part of the game.
I think we can agree that RNG should still be a thing. I mean, it's still an RPG. That's good. No,
but it has to be developed properly, and it has to be.
See Diablo.
There are different kinds of RNG, and we will have a video about this eventually. But when it comes to RNG, it adds replayability. It adds uncertainty, it adds unpredictability, because once you eliminate RNG, you have specs like, let's say, Balanced Druid, who is very predictable, and you don't really have any specific incredible moments in the rotation. But the opposite side of the spectrum, you have Enhancement Shaman, who is just too unpredictable. So our RNG in terms of gearing as well, because that's when you have the weekly vaults giving you pants for the 4th time in a row, where your legendary is the pants, or giving you Sanctum of Domination.
Okay, the system, the vaulting is better than what we used to have, the big chest and whatever. But it's not
steadily getting better and better.
It's still frustrating, nevertheless. So I would say targeted loot without that much gating on it.
It would be a Valor vendor. If the Valor system would be a vendor that you can buy items for, and you can sack or disenchant or scrap items that you get from the vault, that would actually make both systems work better.
That's what I'm saying. It does sound like we're kind of trying to simplify the game at this point, but it's so unnecessarily complicated. It's just like, I feel a lot of people could vibe with this. Listen, I just want to, if I get, like you mentioned, like my 4th pieces of pants in a row, can you give me an option to just destroy those and have some way to catch up
Get
or
a
not
glove
feel as
or a
bad? Because
trinket
it
or
feels
whatever.
bad. And Ian did say, man, I don't want you to feel bad when you get a piece of loot. Well, say that to my 7 rings. But yeah, just going through it, right? So story, classes, systems, gearing. Let's move on to PvP.
Okay,
Now,
PvP is a little bit of a contentious topic on our channel. We don't necessarily do PvP content, but we do like to do a lot of PvP, and the channel
Love
kind
it.
of started with PvP anyway.
yeah.
So
Back in the days.
and both Marcelian and I kind of started playing WoW for PvP. So it's actually pretty close to our heart. It just so happens that, PvE is a little bit more popular. But addressing PvP also addresses the core issues of the game. So I think it's better for the game if the PvP would be okay, even if you just don't like it. Because we saw what it did to us in 9.0, to PvE players. It was a little bit wonky. So
but still.
again, we can take these lessons outside of PvP as well, but we need... Okay, I initially thought about it as weekly balance fixes because I thought it was like, oh, okay, let's address Fire Mage this week.
That's a bit much.
But okay, we can have like bi-monthly fixes. I think that's pretty fair
If
to
it's
accept
necessary,
because
you don't want to just force.
obviously. But let's say, oh my God, boomies are just doing 20% more damage than everybody else in the radar right now. Okay, let's tune down boomies a little bit, and I can feel you touching your pitchfork right now, but that's okay because even if you don't have that 30% more damage, you're still gonna do pretty okay. But that's what I mean, like more balanced fixes, and I think that would be for PvP, and that would make stuff really easy for new players to get into PvP as well, when it doesn't feel like you're just going in and you're getting one shot by 3 different kinds of classes, and you know what happened.
Yeah, well, you know what else would make like a big entry for new players in PvP? Solo queue.
Oh my God.
I know Holinka has talked a little bit on addressing this, and the solo queue thing has been floating around since like forever, since our Lord and Savior Savix came up with and promoted the idea, and then Stoops and other folks from the PvP community. The thing with solo queue is I do strongly believe in this system, and I do believe it will fix a lot of the problems that are plaguing the PvP community, especially arenas and RPGs for like the longest time now, and LFG is no solution. Their biggest concern, from what I understood, is that once you introduce a system like this, you just give birth to a brand new wave of toxicity and player harassment or whatever, because you queue up with strangers, you don't do good, they'll fuck you up, and vice versa. Which I think
that's actually bullshit. I think that's a very bullshit excuse, because when you do LFG and you get new players, like what's different?
Kind of the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing, and you cannot not do a system of the game that's supposed to be good for the game on the fear of being toxic. That's just people being people. You cannot control people.
That's what I'm saying.
And other games have had solo queue before, and they were popular. And if you played like, let's say like MOBAs, which are probably the most popular right now, and you've done solo queue, you know that's how you actually met your group of friends to actually not do solo queue anymore and do proper ranked content. So I think solo queue is also a good way to find people, because it's also faster, it's easier, it's less discriminative. Because you're not standing in LFG as a red paladin waiting for 2 hours to find a group that wants a red paladin.
It's also a solution to just make separate ladders or separate ratings for this. Solo queue is its own thing. 3v3.
Well, we already have that now, and StarCraft has about like 5 different ladders. So
it shouldn't, like, because some people would argue that it's not like the most competitive thing out there. Okay, fair enough. If you have a stable team, obviously you're gonna have much more experience and strategies or whatever. That's fine.
This has always been the case.
This is like the solution. So for players who are only interested in arenas or RPGs or whatever, this is like the best solution to meet new players, potentially, friends over the line, because this is how the PvP, I would say, meta in gaming kind of established itself. You mentioned MOBAs. We can talk about, shooters as well. There's solo queue over there also. Any sort of like PvP focused game kind of has the solo queue some way.
Especially when it's based on like a big arena type battleground.
Yeah.
Either it's actual arenas in WoW, or if it's like a Summoner's Rift in League of Legends or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
all mounts that. And much more cosmetics. And I can tie this in to my original systems. Like you can have original external system, right? One system per expansion. You can have, imagine you can get from this, man. I talked about, I'm not going to nerd out again on it, but okay, mounts and cosmetics. Okay, titles, that's all fine and dandy, but the mounts in PvP...
The rewards for PvP seem a little bit laxer as opposed to what you get from M+ and raids right now. So I feel like they could double down a little bit more on that.
Yeah, it's definitely another opportunity. In a perfect expansion, you would have solo queue and you would have a lot more mounts and cosmetic rewards, no doubt, plus a lot more fixing. Now, let's talk about a very spicy one, especially in Shadowlands. Ooh. Content pacing. Okay. So what would be, in your eyes, the perfect content pacing in a perfect World of Warcraft expansion?
Well, okay. Content pacing. Well, the thing is with the gaming these days, it's all seasonal based, and I don't think we can get rid of that. And I don't know if that's such a bad thing, because seasonal gameplay adds replayability, because you're starting kind of fresh. Although I'm not particularly fond in an MMO for the player power to be completely invalidated with the next few epics that you get. The first few epics that you get a new patch just outclass everything you could have looted in the previous one. It's a little bit much. It works in other games, but I think in MMOs you have to establish some form of continuity so that you can keep your content valid more time. But that's a different type of topic for a different kind of video. Content should be about obviously cyclical, about 4 to 5 months. Every 4 to 5 months a big patch. 6 months should be an exception. 6 months should not go by unless we have a 0.5 patch in between. I agree. So okay, if this gives them more time to design like all of the extra stuff that we've essentially talked about, it would be nice to have a patch at the very latest every 6 months. And then you have between every patch you'd have a 0.5 patch, and the 0.5 patches should be big balance changes. Like, okay, we've seen how this performs so far. You had time to do the raid, you had time to push your keys. Okay, let's actually balance all the underpowered and overpowered classes and all of that good stuff.
They kind of targeted this with Legion. They wanted to do this. They wanted to do it in BFA 2, and they sort of did, but in BFA they had to just
there was a lot of fires that needed to be put out there.
The Azerite problems and whatnot. So what you're saying is basically I think they wanted to go for this, obviously for Shadowlands.
It's already in their books. They just need to be consistent and actually keep to it, I think.
But I know you did mention at some point that maybe a brand new dungeon on every patch to keep things fresh for Mythic Plus.
That's another thing, because we talked about,
because we already have raids in big patches, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have, and the same thing goes with PvP as well, new arenas, because we have a new raid every patch. It's kind of hard to have
new battlegrounds, man.
New battlegrounds as well.
What the fuck?
Like they did really good in Shadowlands, where they made battlegrounds more relevant, have more gear. It's pretty hard to get a RBG team set up, but probably it's easier to do arena setup. So maybe put the rewards at 100 rating less, so that people can have an easier time, and maybe more reward systems, but definitely have, let's say, at least a new dungeon and a new arena, and or a new battleground at least every 2 patches.
Can you imagine the manpower they need for that shit, though? I mean, we're talking about perfection here. This is
that's fair. Yes, that's fair enough. But this is World of Warcraft, man. This is not your new MMO coming out of the market. Look at Path of Exile, which is a really good example. I'm actually not 100% sure how quick they're rolling out their seasons with their patches, but they're always changing the zone. They're always changing the formula.
Yeah. Keep it fresh.
And that's cool. Obviously, you have the same content that you level through until you get to max level, but every time it's fresh. So that has been true for raiding for as long as MMOs have existed. Yeah. But obviously, WoW has evolved past that. You have M+ and you have PvP. So have no style. Okay, what is it? 10.0, we have 6 dungeons and 1 new arena. 10.1, we have another dungeon. 10.2, we have a new battleground and stuff like that, right? But we have to have at least 2 new dungeons and 2 new arenas per expansion, because it's just not enough.
Oh, per expansion, added new on top of the already launching one.
On top, okay, so if you have to, just release the expansion with 2 dungeons less, which is it's a little bit but they could make it work if the first 0.1 patch comes pretty quick.
Sure.
And then you would have a new dungeon every patch, so you'd have 3 extra dungeons, so you might have 1 or 2 more overall. But I mean, come on, it's 2021. People do dungeons all the time, and the stagnation of the content has been seen pretty obvious in Shadowlands right now, where people are just bored of the same dungeons. and we have Tazavesh now, which all these heroic dungeons are really cool, but they don't launch in M+ faction, so we still don't get to play them. We do them once or twice, we get our loot, and then that's it.
And Tazavesh is a really great example because it's such a fun dungeon, and I don't know, this
or
thing...
do heroic dungeons every patch, just keep them out of M+, but make the loot better.
That could also be a solution, yes. Bring me the days where you found heroic dungeons. Oh man, but yeah, in terms of like the content pacing, I think what their original plan should be the perfection here, like 4 to 5 months content. You know, have a dungeon or an arena or a battleground at each major patch on top of, you know, the raid tier and whatnot. And I think that would be Gucci, because even if you like get bored of the current content, you know, you're 4 months after the new patch launched and you cleared your raid and you've done your mythic pluses and whatever, you don't really want to do arenas or whatever, you have that original system I talked about there, where you can just go in any type of content and still progress towards that, you know, unlocking and upgrading all of your visuals. Let's talk about professions here.
Okay,
professions is a big missed opportunity.
This is actually another topic that's pretty close to my heart, because, well, I grew up leveling through vanilla all the time, and professions were a big part of that. And then I played a lot of endgame TBC, where professions were probably at their peak. I feel I haven't played a lot of the time in the last couple of years, but as far as I've understood, professions have never been as important as they were in PV in TBC, and not necessarily important, but with as many options, because you had like blacksmithing had sub professions with weaponsmith, armorsmith, and stuff like that. That was really cool. Yeah. But okay, that aside, maybe TBC was the best, but that's not the point. The point is, RPGs are really awesome when you can craft mythic level items. Okay, professions should let you craft mythic level items. They shouldn't be easy. They shouldn't be easier than actually doing the mythic content, because what they could make, and it's not an absurd concept, it's actually pretty straightforward, because what they can make is, you know, you loot, you kill Sylvanas 5 times, you loot whatever soul ash bullshit shard, and then you get like those 5 times, and then you can make like a mythic level Sylvanas eye level weapon, or maybe a couple eye levels lower, because Sylvanas does give you higher than the rest of the raid, so maybe just normalize it with the normal raid loot. So it's not really that good, but it's definitely better than actually not getting anything, and it's definitely better than the first item you would eventually loot in the raid anyway. Yeah. Because crafting has always been a core aspect of most RPGs. Look at Diablo, look at The Witcher, look at Monster Hunter. Like Monster Hunter is probably the RPG, whether like it or not, but the RPG that just is all crafting. It's all crafting, and it's really cool. I wouldn't know. It's really cool to like fight fight a dragon and get a dragon sword. It's really cool to fight like a demon and get a demon shield or stuff like that. That's that's really cool. Correlation of it. Yeah, you can correlate it, of course, and that's maybe how you can make tier items from tailoring, blacksmithing, leatherworking, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of options there.
I would add to this that yes. Professions in WoW right now, and not only now, I think we can talk about the last 3 expansions at least, have been, I would say, minimal and kind of like forgotten in a way. They're still there. There's still a couple of professions you can do some gold with. It's fine, but the opportunity here for a perfect expansion would be, as you know, I think Flame kind of like underlined it perfectly. But dude, just have that impact in it. Once again, professions could be content that you could do and have a interesting reward, an impactful reward if you put the time in, when you get bored of doing, you know, the same old. That being said, how about some cool ideas like for inscription, actually having the possibility to inscribe your name on a cloak or something.
That's another Diablo 2, huh?
Yeah, but like, okay, you can have the name of the item, but how about graphically putting there a letter or something like that, a stylized letter? I would love to watch
tabards or something like that.
Yes, I would love to go through the world and have either a tabard or
a big M on your chest.
Yes, or even listen. I would go as far as even uploading fucking PNGs. Have tabards with MarcelianOnline logo over there. How cool would that be, dude?
I did that in Counter-Strike and uploaded a very not safe for work PNG, but that's what we mean. It's like there are definitely downfalls, but they're trying, but they're just like not going full out. They're trying with like crafting legendaries and they're making it so convoluted. I think that the problem that I didn't like with any of the profession system that WoW had is that the recipes were extremely hard to get. Okay, either make the recipes hard to get or the mats hard to get. And I think making the mats hard to get makes a lot more sense because the recipe is just the recipe. You know what you have to look for. You don't have to, like the way it is right now with crafting legendary base items for a normal player that wants to just use profession because he likes it. I don't want to spend all my day managing profession. I will never be able to make max eye level crafted gear because it just takes so much farming time, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that they can adjust. So either make me need more leathers or make me need almost no leathers and just give me the recipes a little bit harder. But I have to balance those things out, and I think just
Yeah. The thing is, we can go on for hours and hours on this, but we still have to make it a friendly YouTube video. So let's just wrap it up. And we touched on the story, the classes, the systems, gearing, PvP, content pacing, and professions. Obviously, there is a lot more that can be added here. And intentionally, we don't want to cover all the grounds because you can have your say in the comments, right? Things that you would see as being perfect for the perfect World of Warcraft expansion. And I know this is idyllic, this is more of a discussion. I'm not saying this will happen, but I think it's time for all of us who still love the game to just have a chat about, okay, what can they do to
put some ideas out.
Yeah, bring it back.
I mean, yeah, I think this is a good. It's likely that now more than ever, maybe the devs are actually paying a little bit more attention to us.
Seems like it.
It looks like it. I hope it's true. I hope it remains true. And it's very important to maintain a fair attitude because it's very easy to go super negative and super bashy of all the stuff. But when they do good stuff, we're like, oh, well, we expected as much. No, it's actually it's not easy to do good stuff either, right? So it's like praise where praise is due, and a lot of good things are happening right now, and I hope they continue to keep happening because WoW surely goddamn needs it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we want it. Like, why wouldn't we want the game to be good?
Yeah, but who else makes good things happen? Our Patreons, baby, of course, because they're supporting all of this content. As you can see all around here, there's a lot of improvements, new formats and stuff, and this is all due to the support of the Patreons and community figures. Yeah, that's R2D2 over there.
It's for luck.
You gotta let us know if you like this new format. So thank you, Patreons. And listen, Flame has a message for you if you're not a Patreon.
Listen. You. I see you, motherfucker. I see you. Yeah. Do you like our video? Do you like the stuff that we do? Come on, man. Leave a like and a subscribe. And also, check the Patreon link down below where you can find more goodies. We're actually, really want to get a little bit more involved with the patrons as well, with the monthly Patreon talks and stream bloopers like that, streaming some of our work for you guys, like get you involved a little bit more in the creative process, if of course that's something that you're interested in. Otherwise, any support that you think we're worth it is greatly appreciated. We really love it. It's a pretty difficult time right now with YouTube and all of that good stuff. So
no, it's not difficult.
So we really appreciate everything that you guys do to make the magic happen.
Yes, thank you everybody, and thank you for watching the video. Let us know what you thought about it, and see ya next one.
See next time. Happy New Year.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.